This is Radar for the On the Radar Entertainment blog, coming to another edition of MLB observations for the 2021 offseason, which we call the Hotstove Week 14. Let's just get into it. Twins have picked up both Tim Beckham and Daniel Robertson in a minor league deal. It's because Andrelton Simmons was injury prone and can't hit, and they're like, well, we're not sure if we want to move Polanco back to shortstop, play Arise second base. They want to play Arise everywhere, but I feel like this dude is a good enough hitter. He should play every day with Sano or Donaldson becoming the DH with Nelson Cruz gone. They're like not sure who's going to play first base or third base, or Arias can play some days at first base. They like Donaldson still can play defense, but if I were him, I can't stay healthy. I'd move him to the other side of the diamond or DH. So they're not sure what they're going to do with shortstop because Daniel Robinson's never been a starter, and Tim Beckham got busted for PED and last signed with a minor league deal with the White Sox and some other teams, and you're just like, well, he's got a service suspension, and the only way to do that is actually be on a minor league roster for the certain amount of days that he's got to be suspended. You're not sure if again he's going to be a repeat offender, and then you waste your investment. This is why it's been a while since he's played in the major leagues. So they don't know what they're doing at shortstop. Tigers signed Carlos Sanabria and Chris Brabago to minor league deals. Again, organizational depth. Giants signed Reynal Espinal to minor league deal. Organizational depth. Jose D. Paul has decided he's going to stay in the Chinese Taiwan League instead of going back to major leagues because, again, not sure what's happening in Major League Baseball. Matt Schumacher, who's had some unlucky injuries with the Angels and Blue Jays, said, you know what? I'm going to go to Japan. I'm going to show that I'm healthy. I'm going to show everybody that, like, I'm going to make my value better by pitching well over in Japan for 1 year. And the next year, I know somebody will sign him because he's had some major league success before, so that's a good strategy by Matt Schumacher. Rockies signed Carlos Perez minor league deal. That will be just organizational depth because, again, they're not really great at catchers, so just get another guy in there in spring training. Red signed Pedro Payano, again, minor league depth. Red Sox signed Roberto Ramos to minor league deal, organizational depth. And the Cubs signed Jonathan Hicks. Well, with him and Yan Gomes, if Wilson Contreras misses injury time or the Cubs decide that they're out of it and they want to trade another veteran off their team, they got two guys who have been major league backup catchers to fill in. The Rays signed Dustin Knight to minor league deal, and the Tigers signed Jack Lopez, and the Giants signed Cody Carroll, and the Nats signed Tyler Gushie, the catcher. All these are minor league deals. Cody Carroll could be the only one out of those four that makes the major league roster at some point. Pablo Sandoval, Mr. Kung Fu Panda, after playing half this season, mostly with the Braves before the deadline and them cutting him, who most likely got a World Series ring out of it, is joining the Mexican League just to continue playing because he knows right now with Major League Baseball, the best he would get is a minor league deal. So if he gets to play in the Mexican League and shows how good he is, somebody will pick him up. The Red Sox signed Jomor Sanchez, former White Sox infielder. You know, he bounced around for a couple of teams in minor league season, and the Sox brought him back. So, like, Jomor Sanchez, at least, we all know he can play great shortstop, second base, and third base defense, and he's a good clubhouse presence. So the Red Sox should know what they're getting. Now, if again, like the way it was the past couple of years, where it's like, you know what, we don't need him, somebody will pick him up, and you'll see him surface elsewhere, maybe back with the White Sox. You'll be like, okay, cool, this guy has value as a major league infielder, as a great defensive player, because he has won a Gold Glove. So the Red Sox are at least getting that out of him. And the Major League Baseball announced that during the lockout, they're not going to be testing for steroids. That makes sense. That's fine by me. And when the lockout does end, Rob Manfred said they're going to have a universal DH, which is a good thing. For example, the Braves who just won the World Series had Adam Duvall, Eddie Rosario, Jorge Soler, Acuna was injured, and Marcell Ozuna was on the suspended list. But all those outfielders, the common theme between Duvall, Soler, and Rosario is they're not great defensive players. One of them DHing would benefit everybody. And for example, the Mets signed Mark Cannon. They still got Dominic Smith and J.D. Davis. Again, not great defensive players, playing out of position. So it would help those teams out. And then the Dodgers would put Justin Turner or Max Muncy at third base, and they could put Bellinger at first base. That helps them out. And the Giants have Darren Ruff and a bunch of position players. They don't know how to move them all around. That having them have a DH. It's right there, 4 teams. Maybe the Cubs bring back Kyle Schwarber. That's a 5th team. And you get all those teams that could actually benefit from having a DH. I've been saying this for years. A lot of National League teams could benefit from having DHs because they have too many guys who can't field, and they got to play them out of position. And a lot of times you play those guys in left field because first base is not always open. So that's a positive for me when they do go back to the table. Lou Whittaker's number 1 is being retired by the Tigers. I don't know what took him so long. He's probably the second greatest second baseman in their career because they got a Hall of Famer second baseman, Garinger. So it's like, if it weren't for him, he would be the number 1 guy. The Joe West is retired from umpiring, so as soon as he's eligible for the Veterans Committee, they're going to vote him right away. And Bud Black has been extended, and guess what? He took the Rockies to playoffs a few years back, former manager of the Padres and a longtime Major League pitching coach, and a former player. It's not his fault that the front office that makes bad moves, the team doesn't spend. Nolan Arenado's gone. Trevor Story's gone. So he wants some stability there at the manager position. That makes a lot of sense there. Jim Rigelman, former Major League manager, is managing one of the teams in the Pioneer League. It makes sense. It's owned by Major League Baseball, so it's still involved with Major League Baseball. Unfortunate news for Matt Harvey. He got subpoenaed in the Tyler Skaggs death. So no matter if it's front office, scouting, trainers, whichever Angels employees have been involved, they think maybe Matt Harvey was the one that asked for the drugs, or he's the one that turned Tyler Skaggs onto it. We don't know. So things are not going well for a former Mets pitcher of the Dark Knight professionally, but this is also personally because it could be jail time if he's anyhow involved in somebody's death. And then Trevor Bauer is not going to be criminally charged for his domestic violence stuff and abuse with whatever assaults. So that potentially means even in Major League Baseball is an investigation and they suspend him. He'll be back to the Dodgers, and the Dodgers let Max Scherzer leave to go to the Mets, and Clayton Kershaw the free agent. So they could definitely use the pitching on their team. They really could. So that makes the most sense. The Rangers hired Nick Hundley, who has been working in the Major League Baseball's office, senior director of baseball operations, and he joins Chris Young, the former Major League pitcher who's been the GM of the Rangers. And of course you get legends of the Rangers' history, Michael Young and Von Rodriguez working for them, but he joins former Major Leaguers Kobe Lewis, Brandon McCarthy, and Darren Oliver. So it's like they're trying to revamp a lot of teams when they sign former Major League Baseball players to help them out in the baseball department, their scouting, their minor league staff. And the Cubs, speaking of minor league staffs, announced who's going to be on the roster and coaching. So Doug DeCenzo is the only major leaguer besides from Josh Side, the former Mets relief pitcher. Those are just a few of the guys who the Cubs decided they're going to hire for their minor league system, because a lot of teams are just revamping everything. Because what's happening this offseason is we've noticed former major leaguers hired to work in the player development, the minor league staff, the front office, because everybody's trying to fix the issue with how much talent they actually have in Major League Baseball, because it's been an issue, and that's the thing there. So Adrian Gonzalez, remember him, the former Major League first baseman, who didn't play the last 2 seasons, 2 seasons in 19 and 20, but then he finished in the Mexican League because he's Mexican-American and come full circle. He decided that he's done playing baseball because he's about 39, 40 years old. It's about time for him to retire. And one thing about him is that he's always going to be one of these big what-if cases. If he never got injured and missed a lot of time, and things didn't, and he played out his full contract in Los Angeles and was healthy, became a free agent, went back to the American League and became a DH, his numbers would probably be a lot better than they were before, because he was a pretty good two-way player during his career, and not many guys are two-way players, and he's one of the few guys you can say that, because he was a 4-time Gold Glove winner and a 2-time Silver Slugger and a 5-time All-Star and led the league in RBI. That just proves two-way guy. He never really... The reason why his numbers may not be as good as not just injuries, because he didn't know what he was doing when he was in Texas, and it took him a while to figure out with San Diego. Then he helped the Red Sox for a bit, and then he played for the Dodgers for that 5-year stretch. And of course, things didn't obviously work out that well because of the injuries and things like that. And he was also on MLB The Show because he had some good years. But imagine if he stayed healthy throughout his time in Los Angeles and played actually until he was 39 years old, not bouncing around in the Mexican League and briefly playing for the Mets. The guy may have finished with 400 career home runs, maybe finished with 1,300 or 1,400 career RBIs, and finished with about 2,500 hits. You're like, wow, this guy is eerily similar to other Hall of Famers like Tony Perez and Jeff Bagwell and some other guys. And you're just like, okay, so he's eerily similar to some other first basemen, and he'd be borderline. But again, injuries derailed his career, and it's not the career that he wanted, but finishing your career with 5 All-Star appearances, 4 Gold Gloves, cover of a video baseball game, led the league in RBIs and won 2 Silver Sluggers, and is considered probably the greatest first baseman in San Diego Padres history, and one of the greatest Mexican baseball players ever. Adrian Gonzalez, happy trails to you on a wonderful career. Sad news is we lost former Yankees outfielder Gerald Williams, the one-time Yankees outfielder who never lived up to potential, who went to Milwaukee, helped it lay in the playoffs, got to play for 2 expansion franchises, Devil Rays and Marlins. Then he came full circle and went back to the Yankees, and then he finished his career with the Mets. So at least he got to finish his career in New York. Basically, being on the Yankees for most of the 1996 season, he gets a World Series ring. Being on the Marlins roster for a good chunk of 2003 gives him a World Series ring. So he finished with 2 World Series rings, even if his overall career wasn't that great. The sad news is he passed away at the age of 55 due to cancer, and I will always remember him because, A, he appeared on Saturday Night Live when one of the Atlanta Braves made cameos with Mark Wells and Pedro Bourbon. For some reason, they were on SNL, but also because I had a lot of baseball cards. And Bernie Williams and Gerald Williams were both Yankees outfielders named Williams. One's Hispanic, one's African American. But I have an error card where front side says one player and the other side says the other. So it's an error card that has both Gerald and Bernie Williams on there. I always remember that growing up. It's sad to see somebody die of cancer, especially a former baseball player. Rest in peace to Gerald Williams. And then we lost, tragically, another baseball player at the age of 47, Jeremy Giambi. 47 years old. The dude played for the Royals, the A's with his brother, Jason Giambi, the Phillies, and I remember with the Red Sox. I got some of his baseball cards, and they said that he obviously one time admitted that he had taken anabolic steroids, and at least that he admitted using steroids to the grand testimony that was leaked. He wasn't like, no, I never did it, I don't know what you're talking about. He at least he admitted it. He also was named the Mitchell Report among the athletes who Balco found Richard Conte claimed had to have sold it to, and so at least, and that they said Balco is both his brother and test positive. At least he admitted it to grand jury and like he was remorse about it. He had some remorse around it. His brother, on the other hand, took it when he was in the A's with the Bash brothers, and McGuire and all those other guys. And then he's like, his brother goes, man, the A's keep losing to the Yankees. I'm just gonna join the evil empire Yankees, and he goes to the Yankees. And he's this big-time player, and he cheated. And it took him all the way till the end of his career when he was with the Rockies, his brother, to go, oh, I'm sorry, I took steroids. Trying to get back as a player-coach, and then do all this, and interview for jobs, and try to change his persona. At least Jeremy Giambi wasn't the person his brother was, with his arrogancy and not admitting that he took steroids. This guy at least, admitted that he took it. His career wasn't as good as his brother's, but he was an honest player. You could say that being in the Moneyball book and being in the movie, as he's played by this guy named Nick Parazzo, is cool. I got to be portrayed in a movie based on a book about the team I played. I got to play with my brother. I was able to be in the playoffs as well with my brother in the division series. So it's like I made the playoffs. I got to play with my brother. I was portrayed in a movie. But it's just sad to see somebody die at the age of 47 because they said that the following day after they announced his death, that he had committed suicide with a gunshot wound to his chest. So it's just sad to lose somebody that I actually was a fan of compared to his brother or just anybody. So rest in peace to Jeremy Giambi and Gerald Williams. Happy trails to Adrian Gonzalez and umpire country music man Joe West. And I think it's great that Major League Baseball is going to have a DH when they come back from this lockout. It's good news for the Dodgers that Trevor Bauer's coming back. When I don't know about the people that he may have not have done stuff to. Bad news for Matt Harvey if he is involved in this because he has been one of my favorite players. And what's up with the Tigers taking forever to have Lou Whittaker's number retired, man? That's where it makes absolutely no sense there. Thanks for listening to another edition of MLB Observations of the Hot Stove 21 season. Week number 14 for On the Radar Tape Blog. I'm Radar. See you guys next time.